Hi, everyone. I know you guys are on mute, but I can hear you already saying hi back. Just wave if you can. I think I can see a few of you. Um, so yeah, thank you for that. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about a really cool concept that I think can uncover uh, a lot of potential, a lot of things that go unseen from our day-to-day life, which within the context of our work affect us how we perform at work, but also at home and how we interrelate, uh, how we connect with others and most importantly ourselves. Because I'm a firm believer in how you do one thing, you do everything. And so if the way we do things or the way we experience things at work in particular uh, have an impact how we show up at home and outside of the work environment. So today I'll be talking about leadership. So Jira, so we're gonna if I pop a question, I guess you'll prompt me and guide me as to how people will get to interact with that.
Yeah, definitely.
So who considers themselves a leader here? I don't know how. Usually in a normal room in a normal setting where I do this, people just raise their hands and you get instant answers. But I guess here we're doing a bit of the virtual experience, which this is, by the way, really fantastic. So in the meantime, just think about that, and we're going to talk about what it means to be a leader. This is a topic that I think we've been examining in the world of business today. We see that in the political world, um, and what it means to be a self leader, what it means to be a leader um, that inspires and leads, not manages. So we're going to be touching upon that a little bit today. A little bit more about me, my background. Uh, I've had vast experiences from getting a degree in design school, where I learned the crafts of user experience design and communication design. That's actually how I got connected with Jira in that field. Uh, but also, I also served in the military. Yesterday was Veterans Day. It was a wonderful day to be to recognize the service that you know, remembering that honor and the privilege that it was to serve this country. I also have had my own businesses. About 10 years ago, I started a software company, and it grew very successfully. And I was with the company for about 7 years, and I decided to step away and sell my shares. And eventually, that path led me to coaching, which I'll talk about in a second. So, did we get any of those responses?
I actually didn't have a place on the board for them to say
Okay.
that, but they could,
Okay.
we can just do a wave or something like that.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, I guess a wave is fine. Yeah. All right, here we go. So I'll just begin. Excuse me 1 second here. All right. So in most organizations, there are three types of people, right? Those who see the glass half full, and those who see it half empty. We know that example or that analogy. But but many more than both of those combined. There are the people who ask, "Who stole half my drink?" Right? So perhaps you've heard of the phrase "the age of enlightenment." You know, I like to call this the phenomenon of the age of entitlement. And so a Gallup poll, a study revealed that more than 50% of the people would leave their jobs tomorrow if they could. And the main reason cited is that they don't like their managers, because most organizations are set up in a hierarchy with workers and managers that often feel at odds and in competition with each other. So for employees, this can create a sense of separation from management and the organization, right? And this leads to a take care of me first attitude and that sense of entitlement, which not only creates their desire to leave their jobs, but also adds to the stress to those who manages them. And another study shows that about 71% of managers were burnt out. So another my last stat here. Another survey, Gallup survey, showed that 70% of the people were not engaged in their job role, in their roles on their jobs, and about 90% of them were completely disconnected from what they do. And so this engagement and this connection costs, well, corporate America billions of dollars, but just the feeling that comes with that, the workforce, that there's a higher cost, a long-term cost that comes with that. So what I'm here to do today is to share an optimistic, but certainly attainable vision for you, for your workplace, and well, for your life. And so we're going to be talking about the 7 levels of leadership through the concept called energy leadership. And this is the 7 levels of energy and leadership will uncover how to become more engaged with others on the job, and how to develop a more powerful leader, or how to develop or become a more powerful leader, one who creates in others inspiration and not perspiration. So, how does that sound? Just a quick show of hands on your screen. All right. So, all right. So, before I get into that, I'd like to share a quick story about a time where 2 leaders had very different perspectives of the same experience. Um, all right. So, one of those leaders was me. And this was when I first, we were starting our company. We're a thriving young company. This was probably maybe our second year or so, when we're doing really well. Revenue was great. We were growing really nicely. We had one big client who was just demanding more from us, more work from us, which meant more revenue. And so we started hiring, and within a short period of time, we grew from about 6 people to 36. I would say in about 6 months or so, we had this exponential growth. And so all good news, right? And at the time, so we're experiencing this thriving, this sense of growth and success. And all of a sudden, we're hit with sudden uncertainty, the unexpected surprises, problems, as we may call it. So 2 things happened at the same time. Um, we were new in the market, where we're able to recruit and hire talent very easily and very quickly. And we're very attracted to the market that we were in. And so it was easy for us to post a job and say, hey, you guys want to work with us? And people would sign up. And we were grooming guys from out of school, and grooming them into being the type of developers and designers uh, of a great quality. And what that ended up happening was the competition came in. Other agencies, big fish, were sort of creeping into our pond of the talent pool, or the pool, and they were offering major salaries, like 3 or 4 times as much as um, we were offering. And so we got caught off guard, like, hey, what's going on? I thought this was a good situation. So that happened. And at the same time, our biggest client was reducing their budget. Their work budget was getting cut off by a significant amount. So this put us in a position of great uncertainty. And the way I responded, so this is where the difference comes in. Um, I responded it naturally in a way of, well, oh my God, what are we going to do? I started worrying how we're going to pay our employees, right? Because uh, we're worrying how we're going to recover from the potential loss in revenue, and also the idea of people leaving your company. It's not a good feeling, and I took that to heart, and obviously, if somebody offers you and makes an offer you can't refuse, you're gonna be more than inclined to take it, no matter how good your team is and how tight things are. However, I did believe things to be different. But anyway, the point how I was experiencing this, it was at a very, I'll talk about this more later, but this was at a very catabolic level. I would call it catabolic energy, where I was stuck in the idea of worry and focused on the problems only. And and on the flip side, I had a business partner who had a little bit more experience in running a business than I did. Um, he also experienced like, okay, wait, what's going on? At least had that initial reaction of we have a problem here. However, what I did notice, this is my observation, is that he was able to quickly move out of that mindset and move into solution mode, move into asking the right questions that'll get us moving forward. And I noticed this, I'm like, how is it that, and I'm still stuck in this worry mode, and I can't get shift my focus into solution mode. So I remember making this observation and sort of like, I want some of that. I want to be able to do that. Um, in the cases where crises of this level happen. And my so anyway, just to end that story, we ended up realizing that our compensation to our employees wasn't that far off because we were really strong in our benefits and the benefits we offered our employees and things like that. So we restructured our benefits and didn't have to change much um, at the salary level to stay competitive in the market. And at the same time, we learned the lesson from a sales and business development perspective to expand and diversify our client portfolio, where not one client is dominating uh, the amount of revenue that the company gets. So we quickly strategized to become more diverse in our client portfolio. So those were successes at the end. But the takeaway was, you know, when these moments happen, these unexpected problems, the crises and moments of uncertainty happen, is how do we show up and how do we push through that and how do we take a position of opportunity and not get stuck in a position of problem. And I would say this is probably the moment where my coaching career began, even though I continued to grow with the company for another several years. But this is where I started noticing a difference because I was in a position where we're two people of in the same role or similar roles, however, responding very differently. And so yeah, so that's where I where I learned or began my career in coaching. Anyway, so tell me, who can relate to moments of uncertainty as a leader? Just show hands. I mean, that's a question maybe, Jiro, we can pose for later, um, where people can share moments that they felt uncertainty, especially this year when we got hit with, you know, COVID-19 and all of a sudden our lives are being turned upside down and we have to do things quite differently than we were used to. So just as we walk through this, just keep that in mind as we move forward. Where are we here with the? Can we bring it to the? Yeah, thank you for that. To the section of with a quote by Bo Bennett. We're going to talk about what is a leader. Sorry, to the left, just before the chart. Yeah, there we go. These two quotes. All right. So, what is a leader? I like to collect this information as well. It's as we define that. All right. So energy leadership. What are we talking about here? This is, it refers to both a particular and unique form of leadership, and literally to the process of leading energy so that it works for you than against you. And I'll talk about what I mean by energy. And what I mean by that is how we experience life. It's the energy determined by your thoughts, your beliefs, and feelings and behaviors, right? So some of these have a catabolic effect on us. In other words, they bring our energy down and limit our sense of options. So when I was in my situation, in the example I gave before, I couldn't see options, right? Because I was stuck in this catabolic level. So others have a an anabolic effect, the opposite. An anabolic effect, meaning that they elevate our energy and give us access to a sense of freedom, a sense of choice and power and fulfillment. This is where we can access creativity. So each thought that we entertain has an energetic consequence. Over time, catabolic energy injures us, while anabolic energy heals or builds us. So we have two basic premises. So one is that everyone leads, either by choice or by default. This is why I ask, who here considers themselves a leader? You're either, whether you're leading an organization, a team, a community, a company, or yourself, you're still a leader. Or a leader can come in the form of a family or even a particular situation. You're in that moment a leader. And the second premise is the higher your overall energy is, the more successful and fulfilled you'll be. So studies show that this is 100% true, whether it's measured in finances or fulfillment of peace of mind in relationships. People who have the highest levels of consciousness have the most energy and report the most success in their lives. So another question I want to pose out there is, how often do you believe you're leading your life and actions with intention? In other words, how often are you in default mode? I guess the difference between the two. By default mode, I mean reacting to life. So this is something that we can probably pose towards the, as we move along and people can start filling that in. All right, so what's in it for you? What's the benefit of all this, right? I guess I don't have that screen on there. That's fine. So the benefits of raising your overall energetic level, or in other words, your level of consciousness at work. So what this does is it helps you inspire and motivate those around you. You'll get a greater sense of, you'll feel a greater sense of purpose. You actually resonate at a higher level of energy, which will help you get more done in less time. And you also attract more success to you. You know, that whole, sometimes a person walks into the room and they just have an energy about them. They have something that you just can't describe. And it's like, wow, I want to talk to that person. I want to be around that person. And usually that type of vibration or energy attracts a success. You'll also be able to make quick and accurate decisions, right? Because from a higher perspective, a higher level of consciousness, you're able to see more options, and also reduce stress at will. Who doesn't want to reduce stress? And stress is all how we're seeing things, what we're focused on. We're focused on problems and worry and things that are point to that while they are true, we also have the option and the choice to focus on what is possible, what is going well. And so through energy leadership, you're able to understand where your uh, thoughts and feelings around that dictate your emotion. You're also increasing your engagement on the job. There's a difference between needing to do something and having to do something versus wanting to do something. Um, that difficult conversation that we may want or something versus, oh, I have to go do this versus I want to. You'll also have access to your personal genius. This is like your creativity, the solutions, that gut feeling where you're sure about whatever decisions you're making. So all other aspects of your life will improve as well. So it's not what you say that matters most; it's why you say it. This is a quote from Bruce D. Schneider, the founder of the coaching institute that I was trained under. And so I want to clarify what I mean by energy. Sometimes that can get um, misconstrued and sort of like, what are we talking about energy level here? We just need leadership. So energy. So through the initial theories, I'm going to go a little sciencey here. The initial theories of Albert Einstein and all these scientists that we've had since in recent times, they've changed our view of life and what we know of things. And so we know a few things, right? The physical objects, including human beings, are actually made up of subatomic particles. These particles are moving, they're vibrating energy. And for all practical purposes, there are two types of energy. As I mentioned before, there's anabolic and there's catabolic. And anabolic energy makes it easier for us to focus on solutions and tap into creativity and experience a more complete and conscious view of situations. Now, catabolic energy, on the other hand, is a destructive, a tearing down force, and it's often associated with stress. It sounds similar to cannibal, right? In a sense, they're very similar to catabolism. Like cannibalism, it it eats away at our health. It eats away at our finances and our opportunities for success. And however we measure it, it has a decaying effect to things. Now, another thing that we know is that we create our own realities based on our perceptions. So your perception creates your energy level, and that creates the world that you know. So I'll discuss this a little bit more later. But there are 7 levels of energy, or if you want to call it consciousness, or levels of awareness, and levels of leadership. And with 2 of these levels being catabolic and the rest anabolic. So let me talk about more of that and get into the heart of what we mean by energy leadership. So here are a few terms that I want to throw out there so that we're uh, as I describe it, you'll be on track. So we have default tendencies, and so the default tendencies. So through years of experience, that what they shape our beliefs and behaviors. We also have developed default tendencies, meaning the way we tend to perceive and react to certain situations and circumstances, the environment around us, etc. So unless we have a way of getting a reality check, our default tendencies fire without us consciously noticing them. And we may go on doing the same things we've always done, repeating the same patterns, well, with the results pretty much being the same as well. And then we wonder why things don't change. So this may happen in any area of our life, and sometimes they're obvious, sometimes they're not. And if we're not paying attention, these default tendencies can continue in creating what I like to call a default future. So it's like if you don't change something that's not working for you, you're gonna end up with a default future. So another term is resonant frequencies. And so your resonant frequency is also your natural frequency. When you align with it, your work and your life becomes effortless. This is like when you're in flow. And an example of resonant frequency is being out of control. Is imagine trying to get a swing to swing faster or to swing slower. And you may be able to do it with force, but helping the swing to flow with its natural resonating frequency um, is different. And it could be said that your natural frequency is something that you rarely use, and you would definitely like to use more of it. And it's the highest frequency available to us. So you see, naturally, we're all highly conscious at our core, and it's our, I guess, our mind, our humanness that gets in the way, um, our preconceptions of things. They can get in the way. And then we have the reticular activating system, RAS. I'm sure this is a popular term, especially in the world of the science of how our mind works. So the reticular activating system, this is the part of the brain that is always scanning around, is scanning the surroundings for things that are problematic, scanning for things that are familiar or out of place. And it always tries to make sense of what we see and and in a way that we can understand it. So the challenge for us is that our default tendencies, which I mentioned before, get us to notice and perceive the same things over and over again. And now the RAS picks that up as something familiar and possibly something problematic, which creates a sort of a double whammy of sorts. So it's, default see something uh, to notice the same things over and over again, and then the RAS notices that something familiar. So it continues to point out these common situations, these concerns, these frustrations, etc., out to us over and over and over again. Without interrupting this, without interrupting this, you will literally see the same things repeatedly, and you won't ever see things differently. However, so energy leadership is a way of interrupting this process so that you can consciously decide what you want to see in your surroundings and in others, and especially in yourself. So this change enables you to place the things you want to notice in your RAS so that you can break this self-perpetuating cycle. So take a moment and ask yourself, what is your self-concept, your self-image? Thank you, Jira, for that. Yeah, what is your self-image? So you don't have to answer this or type it in, but just keep that in mind. And I know that's a complicated can be a complicated question if we haven't spent a lot of time thinking about it. So, but this is essentially your energy level, your level of consciousness, and the determining factor for how you see yourself and the world. So when I speak of energy, I'm not referring to only physical energy. I'm also referring to emotional, to mental, to psychological, and even spiritual energy. Mostly, I'm referring to your particular energetic profile. And so this is sort of the makeup of all the seven levels, which I'll get into what they are in a bit. So like Einstein and many scientists who followed have told us, everything in the universe, including us, is vibrating energy. And we are energetic beings. And it's sort of like when somebody walks into the room and you can sense that they're, hey, I don't have a good feeling about this person. Or wow, you haven't even met them and all of a sudden there's chemistry. So we are energetic beings, and based on how we think and feel and act, we're constantly experiencing and sharing either anabolic energy, which works for us, or catabolic energy, which works against us. So there are 7 levels of energy or consciousness at which we can resonate. Uh, our average resonating level of energy falls somewhere on this scale between 1 and 7. And it is comprised of both a sum total of every thought we've ever had, every emotion we've ever felt, and every action we've ever taken, as well as those that what we're thinking and feeling and doing at this very moment. So your ARL, average resonating level of energy, I'm going to be using that term later, is the average of all your various day-to-day and thought-to-thought energy. So each person's energy level varies based on various aspects, including their job or part of their job, or and every part of their life. And no two people have the same energetic makeup. So think about it in this way, like the stock market, right? So we're familiar with stocks, whether we've bought stocks or not. We have some idea of how they work. Like a stock of a company, your energy level can go up and down depending on how you perceive and respond to what's happening in your life. Your ARL, the average, determines your energetic makeup, the viewpoint of the world, the physical and mental health, your ability to lead, and your level of success. So this is how you're operating at an average moment. Now, people resonating at lower levels tend to attract all things negative and react in kind. It's quite literally, it's like a black cloud is following them around. And while those resonating at higher levels may attract uh, experiences with more ease, meaning they can attract more opportunity, more power, and success. And these are the ones that just seem to have the Midas touch, right? People say, wow, this person's so lucky. Look at how everything just falls on their lap. But here's some great news is that we have the ability to alter our energy, right? To our energy level. We have, or to alter our level of consciousness. And that has a huge impact on our jobs. It has a huge impact on the people we work with, uh, a big impact on the people we live with. And also it has an impact on our own bodies, right? That feeling that you get inside, and to carry that, we have the potential and power to shift that. So in fact, your energy level, or ARL, is sort of what we call an E factor in the coaching world. And this is the number one factor determining your level of success. So the energetic self-perception chart. Now let's take a look at how this chart works. So the energetic self-perception chart, um, it's based on how you perceive yourself. It's called this because it's based on how you perceive yourself, how you exhibit or embody a certain level of energy. So to the left, I don't know if we can get a little closer there. I guess, yeah, it's visible enough. So to the left, you see the core thought, that column there. These are the core thoughts. And in the middle, you see core emotions. And on the right, you see core actions and results. And this is how you read the chart from left to right. So every level, starting from the center to the top, uh, has a thought associated with it. And there are a lot of other thoughts, but these are the core thoughts. And in the feeling section in the middle, there are 7 core feelings. Again, a lot more emotions are involved at these levels, but these are the core emotions. And to the right, you see when you think and you feel a certain way, you tend to act in a certain way, right? Our thoughts and emotions have a major influence in our behavior. So the left is the cause and the right is the effect, if you want to look at it that way. So let's just look through this a little bit more, and then I'll show you how to use it to your advantage. Um, let's look at the individual levels. So one thing to consider as we discuss the 7 levels of energy is that each level is exponentially more powerful than the one beneath it. And but I'm not saying that higher levels are better. Well, I guess I have been saying that, but there's something to be said about that they each have a advantage and disadvantage. So it's not necessarily label them as good or bad. They're just a higher level as you move up. Um, so what you do with this information is your choice, Eric. And each level of energy has, just remember that each level of energy has advantages and disadvantages. All right. So level one, yeah, this is basically victim thinking. It's at the lowest of the catabolic energy. Those who have, excuse me, those who have an ARL in this area are primarily victims. That is, they are victim to thoughts, they're victim to their beliefs and emotions and perceptions. And more than that, uh, this works against them. In some aspects of life, we all have some victim energy. And victim energy can include guilt, it can include self doubt, low self esteem, and perhaps not in general, but at least in any particular aspect of life. Level one also includes mostly worry and fear. And with enough of that energy, you hit bottom, which is complete victim. And the results are a sense of apathy and lethargy, inaction. There's essentially no action and avoidance in this level. You ever have an idea where or something you're avoiding because procrastination, as many of us have experienced, has a lot to do with level one energy. So I know we have some prompts here to for people to enter some cases where they experience level one energy. So think about as I'm talking through these, just enter them, and as we move forward. So between 1 and 2, you're sluggish at best, and as is your productivity level. All right. So level 2, this is an interesting one because level 2 is also catabolic, but it's slightly better than 1 uh, because at least there's action at level 2. So here's what I mean. So level 2 is the world that most of us experience at work and in our day-to-day lives even. It is the conflict range. And there may be a lot of level 1 emotions as well, but the main one for level 2 is anger. Some of us, some very successful people may have a lot of level 2, but they're usually unhappy and almost always unhealthy. They tend to manage others by force, which causes a sense of separation. That sense of separation that I spoke about earlier. It's sort of like do as I say or else. That type of rhetoric is familiar with a level 2 energy. So others with similar energy, they can express it differently by turning it inward as well. It's not just to the world around you, but it can also happen inward where you're being too hard on yourself for something. Um, and they're still just angry either at themselves or others, but they keep steaming and stewing until they implode or explode. So as I'm talking about this, yeah, keep filling those out. And, all right, so level 3, this is about we tend to move out of the catabolic levels, and this is and transition into more anabolic. This is where things, and we're going to be very familiar with this one. This is about responsibility for how you tend to interpret things, responsibility for your role in making things better for yourself. You're taking forward and positive action. And at this level, you take responsibility for how you feel about anything and anyone. and and at this level, there's no one. You realize that no one's in control of your reactions or emotions. The result is that you forgive yourself and others, and you are able to rationalize things that don't work in order to accept them. So this includes people in your life. This includes the result that occurred after a particular event. And so, excuse me. So this includes people in your life, and the result is that while you may judge them, you can also cooperate them. So it's sort of like, all right, I got a coworker, and they're I don't enjoy their company, or they do things a certain way, but you're coping. You're able to cooperate at least and get the job done. So there's a lot of good that comes with that, and I always look at level 3 as a double-edged sword, because yes, while you may move forward and take action, it's sort of less than ideal. So now we're going to start to move into the more ideal levels. So hmm, level four is about caring. It's about giving and helping. This is where you have concern for others before concern of your own self. And many people think that they are at level 4 because they want to help others. But if their intention is to first help themselves, for example, if you're helping others simply to feel better about yourself, that's sort of like the wounded helper. They're probably coming from a level 1 instead. So remember, it's not what you say that matters most, it's why you say it. And so it's the intention behind the words, it's the intention behind the actions. So the action in any level may look the same, but the energy and consciousness can vary greatly. Remember what I said about wanting to do something versus needing and having to do something? They can carry very different energies. So one more thing about level 4 is that the caring, nurturing energy of a level 4 is not only about helping others, but also how we nurture projects. It's how we nurture our jobs and ourselves, including our own bodies. The difference between this level and those below it is that at level 4, we nurture ourselves and others because we want to, right? Not because we need to. And to be clear, it's a choice between ourselves and others at level 4, and we choose others first at this level. All right, so level 5. This is where it reconciles, and so level 5 reconciles good and bad, and begins to see everything as an opportunity. The example that I gave earlier with my business partner, now I can point back to that experience and look at, okay, so he was operating at a level 5, and I was mostly at a 1 through that experience. And that's something that really stood out for me. So at this level, you start to accept the process of life and you play the game well. You experience peace of mind with a feeling of control of your life, not control over others. And at this level, no matter what happens outside of you, you experience a sense of joy within. An example of level 5 thinking can be found in Thomas Edison's attempt to invent the light bulb. So after his 999th experiment, he didn't produce a working light bulb. And so his assistant asks, hey, why do you keep trying when you continue to fail time and time and again? And Edison smiled and responded, don't be silly. I've simply learned the 999th way not to invent the light bulb. So not only did Edison obviously eventually succeed, but in his so-called failings, he discovered several dozen of other inventions and key scientific principles in those attempts. So level 5 thinkers often mind. Um, so level 5 thinkers, what they do is they find meaning, they find purpose and learning in everything that they experience. And all right, so level 6 is the level of synthesis, which is a sense of connection between you and everyone and everything else. This is pretty cool. This is where we tap into our genius level. So this is a powerful place of intuition, or as many successful executives and entrepreneurs would describe it, this is like your gut feeling. I always look at this as uh, I don't know who's a sports fan here, but like Tom Brady when he played with the Patriots, when that guy's he's in the flow and in the red zone and just making those passes where there's so much chaos around him. This is where like the genius and just it just happens for this. You see this a lot in pro athletes, those high achieving athletes where we're just amazed at what they can do. Usually they're tapped into this level. They're experiencing a lot of level six. So creative geniuses and some business professionals and other high level success stories in all walks of life continually tap into this level. So that doesn't mean that their average is there. Um, it only it's only that they use a level six energy to their advantage, and level six can take any experience and create it anew. And the final level is level seven, and this is the level of truth. And the easiest way to look at this is like in a spectrum, a color spectrum. So level seven is like the color white, which encompasses all the other colors in the spectrum. And at this level, life is created in each moment, using all other levels at will, without fear, without judgment or concern, and with absolute passion about all experiences. It's a very rare level to tap into, but it is possible. Um, and this is the level of pure creation. And those who tap into this level are the most powerful in the world. And level seven, it really creates new experience regardless of what's happening around you. And so, so your level of consciousness determines your view of the world and your reactions to events.
Hey,
So I'm going
Nelson,
to give
I
an
just wanted
example.
to do a quick time check. We're almost out of time, so I wanted to kind of
Oh,
let you know.
yes. Oh, thank you. I have, yeah, I think we just have a couple more examples and, but we can open it up to Q&A if you want.
Either way, Nelson, it's your time. You can lead
Okay.
us through.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. So I just want to go over a scenario, an example of a manager and an experience between a manager and an employee and break down each of the levels of how they see it. So let's say you're a manager and someone asks you for a raise. You say no without any further explanation. No, no raise. And based on the person's level of energy that they carry, they will most likely view this as follows. So the level one, the victim, after hearing the word no, they would think or say to themselves, I didn't deserve the raise anyway, right? So this leads to apathy and hopelessness, depression and guilt. So listen to that word. They didn't deserve the raise anyway. The level two, the conflict. They're gonna say you're a selfish, inconsiderate jerk. So this is the blame game, and the result will likely be anger, resentment, or even worse, like revenge, because they didn't get what they want. At level three, this is responsibility. And they're thinking, I don't like it, but I have to live with it. And as I'm sure I would have gotten a raise if I had just worked a little harder or if the company had done a little better. So as you hear the rationalization between them. So this leads to forgiveness by the employee, but it will not change their actions very much. So this is where we get more ideal. Level four, concern. The company must not be in great shape. What can I do to help the company here? So this leads to more of an effort by the employee to help. The primary reward is the feeling of satisfaction from helping to make things better. It's not about the person any longer. And at level five, reconciliation, they're going to say, I see how things are. I'm sure I can create a way to not only help the company, but also get the raise or even a better one in the process. So this leads to a brainstorming session for mutual gain. They start to look for opportunities and multiple solutions of how to make a, let's say, a win-win situation. And then we have level 6, which is synthesis. I feel great for being here. The raise will come when we can afford it. So there's no negative or positive direct result of this type of thinking, as a person is already at a very high level, and thus, uh, therefore, there would not be negatively affected by any quote unquote bad news, because no news is bad. They see the world in that way. Many times, people at a low level, they operate at level 1 and 2, run into people at level 6, and they just think they're nuts, and they're like, this person's out of touch. And so you can see how we're all creating our own experiences. And then level 7, and this is quite interesting, um, is creation. And so nothing actually occurred at a quantum level. This is sort of when you're really up there. There's no time, no past or present or future. Everything is pure creation. But unlike those who are actually at this level, you use them instead of having them use you, right? This is where you're able to utilize all the other levels at will rather than be at the effect of them. The thing is, nobody really resonates at this level, or they don't average at this level. However, people can access them. They can tap into this level of non-judgment and creative genius. Um, so, any, I'd like to hear from the crowd. What have we collected so far? Any questions?
So is there like a 200 question quiz that you take to find out what level you're at in different aspects of your life, like work versus home versus,
Hmm.
you know, business and things of that sort?
Thanks, Raquel, for your question. Yes, that's a good news. There's an assessment. It's not 200 questions. It's actually a lot less. Um, I do an assessment, and we'll go through. Well, you go through the questions on your own, and I show you the report. I describe from this report. You'll see what your average resonating levels are. In moments under normal situations, let's say your day to day and normal to good moments, but we also get to look at your energetic stress reaction. So this is how your energy levels are affected when a moment of stress happens. So, and when you look at that report, that side of the report, you get to see the quick change of who you are when you're stressed, and the comparison between the two can reveal a lot. And through a process, we'll discover the specifics of what's limiting you, how these things are working to your advantage, and how they are limiting you from from your full potential. So, any other questions? All right, I'm gonna continue on. Can we look at yeah, just the quick differences in ARL, the stats here? That one, ARL differences. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So if you look at here, so a lot of this may or may not make sense, right? But um, but let's get practical and talk about how the theory behind all of this can play out in your role as a leader. And again, I mean leader, not just in the role of work, but as the leader of yourself, the leader of your family, in how you lead in your relationships, and all types of situations. So here's some cool statistics. Um, the average resonating levels vary greatly between people who are successful and those who are not. And there really is an energy factor of success here. So to easily understand this, a research study was conducted for about 100 people from a sample group. And they have taken the Energy Leadership Index, which I've already mentioned by Raquel's question. This is what I discussed, the Energy Leadership Index. Um, the difference between the people who scored 2.5 or 2.5 uh, and those who score only slightly higher, only to about 3.0, showed that those who average resonating levels were only zero point 0.5 higher reported these successes. So a 20% increase in financial success. They described an improvement in their leadership ability, their a sense of satisfaction in relationships, their quality of communication improved, even their sense of health and wellness was improved. So moving on here from my notes. Yeah. All right. So just think about that. Just a small shift from 2.5 average resonating level to 3.0 can show these changes. I recently worked with a client who's having trouble in different areas of his life, but we started off in the workspace. He's a technician doing security installations, and there's a sales component part to his business, and he was resistant to the sales part, but it was very dependent on the amount of income that he produced. So we just worked on these kind of things and shifted his perspective of his idea of sales and how he was looking at sales from a very level one, level two perspective, and we were able to shift that to a much higher level where he saw that it was a win-win situation. He was seeing it at level two because he thought, oh, I'm trying to convince people of doing something. So convincing, that's a level two, forcing, versus a level four, a level five, where you're providing a value when you're selling, when you're offering something. You're providing a solution to a problem that somebody has when you're in sales. And that's what true, in my beliefs, what real uh, sales is. Uh, I like this quote, even though sometimes it's hard to understand. The failure to honor people. Uh, Fail to honor people, they fail to honor you. But of a good leader who talks a little, when his work is done and his aim fulfilled, they will say, "We did this ourselves." So, Jira, can we do that little skit? It's not a skit like Saturday Night Live skit. It's not at that level. So don't get your hopes high. But I don't know. Did you ever get that note?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Um, so interesting. Okay, here we go. So I got two scenarios here where I want to describe catabolic leadership styles and anabolic leadership styles. And so first I'll read off the catabolic and just pay attention to any similar experiences that you may have had. All right, so in this scenario one, I'll be catabolic leader, Jira, and you be the employee, okay? All right, so hey Jira, you need to create a new sales campaign.
How should I do that?
Well, I don't have time to hold your hand. You'll need to figure it out. Just make it happen.
I'm not sure where to start.
Should I find somebody else to do it? So this is an example of catabolic leadership where there's a sense of force, a sense of separation, uh, an excessive sense of delegation that occurs. All right, so I'd like to invite you to describe a similar catabolic leadership experience in the boxes below. Maybe we take 2 minutes. We got a little time. Where you've experienced that type of leadership. Hmm, that's a good one. Many bosses don't define requirements. Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot with clients in general. Um, you see that where people, they hire an expert. I mean, as designers, we see that a lot with clients sort of not clear on certain things, aspects of the project, and you know, they may expect the expert to come up with areas outside of their field, and there's usually a sense of disappointment that comes with that experience. Leaders who are not too busy, who are too busy. Yep, yep. I'm too busy for this. Us versus them mentality. So something to notice. If I'm sure if we do this in more depth, we'll probably find a pattern at a level 2, where a lot of leadership tends to sort of over delegate and manage and force and have the do as I say, or I win, you lose mentality. Unclear direction, that's more of a level 1. And where sort of like there's an avoidance, and they kind of just give you things where they just don't want to do themselves, which there's a big difference in that. All right, I'm gonna, so as you guys finish off, let's kick off the, oh, is that how it works? You time it off. Cool. I really love this platform. Onboarding my new position at work. Yeah, that's like there's no time for the onboarding process and giving a new member of your team a proper welcome. We can feel, oh, this is so and so. All right, let's get back to business. That kind of takes away from the experience of creating a relationship with your new team member, and vice versa. Uh, all right, where are we? So the second scenario, Jira, do you want to be the leader this time?
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
All right, we have a new project and I could really use your help.
Great. What is it?
It's to help create a new sales campaign. How do you think you could help?
Well, I'm pretty creative, and I can find out what other competitors are now doing and put our little slant on it.
Fantastic. How can I support you?
Awesome. So, all right. So you see the differences in conversation there. What this one, if I'd like to see what people notice in the differences in the words used, um, the level of engagement. What, think about what type of relationship going forward, the way the project will develop going forward. You could also think about when an unexpected incident within the process of the project happens, how that's going to be managed by the leader or handled by the team. Command versus ask. Yeah, asking. That's always, it's a great way to lead with compassion. It's being considerate of the people around you. Let people decide. Yeah, let people decide. I love that because it gets a buy-in. It gets it taps into the person's strengths, and you're already aligning with their willingness to contribute. What are they excited about? By having that type of conversation, subconsciously, that part of the individual is getting tapped and brought up. Uh, the I want to do this mentality is already being prepared. That energy is being summoned versus, hey, go do this. Um, you know, you're more likely to have the, oh, I got to do this, I have to, or pressure, or catabolic pressure can arise from that. Allows for self-direction. Yeah, one of the greatest things about a team is having a sense of autonomy and a sense of ownership spread out among the organization, and not just at the top, but not just with the product managers and the executives. When you have everyone feels like they're contributing and have a sense of ownership in the process, the results are much, much greater. All right. And so, yeah, so look at the differences, right? If you can zoom in on that differences between catabolic and anabolic leaders, the catabolic manages while the anabolic leads, delegates fully, project shares. They give information versus shares detailed information. You see a lot of sometimes managers are holding back some information. Um, Self-assesses, utilizes a 360 and individual feedback, working in crisis mode. Yeah, I've seen this a lot, and where there's always a sense of crisis. I needed this yesterday, versus planning and developing accountability systems. There's a disconnection emotionally. While we, in the anabolic side, we can utilize our emotional awareness and have this sixth sense of, and honoring what that how that contributes to the experience. Left brain analysis. Yeah, there's a lot of logic and behind the numbers and the bottom line, but we can also use whole brain thinking in in our leadership. Deals with problems. Those words. I have to deal with this versus, there's an opportunity here. There's an opportunity for growth, of learning, of trying something new, and utilizes personnel, uses people, um, and versus an anabolic leader that sees the true human potential in our own gifts. All right, so we treat people. This is a quote from Johann van Guth. I don't know how to pronounce that. We treat people as if they were what they ought to be, with, and you will help them to become what they are capable of being. I like this because this is sort of, you can see the potential in someone, and you have that sense of expectation in a good way. Like you see that what they're capable of, and you treat them as so, and they will grow because of that, if they're willing to, if they have a similar perspective. So as a leader, you can inspire yourself and others into greatness, and it's up to you. Your door is now open, and you can walk through it in many directions. So that concludes the bulk of this. I'd like to thank you guys for this opportunity.
Thank you, Nelson.
And
Awesome.
yeah, I'm just yeah. Go ahead.
While you guys are kind of thinking of, we'll open it up for any final questions before we wrap up. But while you're doing that, come down on the section of the board just a little bit and tell us, what you thought of our event today. And then there's also a place if you're interested in pursuing some coaching with Nelson or following up with him in some sort of capacity. You can just put your name and email over here, and he can get in touch with you afterwards. So yeah, any final questions or anything? I know for me, when I went through the assessment process with Nelson, one thing that really stuck out to me was just how different my reactions are when I'm in, a good place and am able to react, maybe at a higher level of energy. But then when I'm under stress, how much my reactions change and how much kind of at a whim I am to stress and stuff. So I found that really revealing for myself moving forward.
Yeah, it definitely, that process can bring awareness to our blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
And it often takes an outside element, someone else or an event, to help bring that to light. Because if we've been doing the same things over and over, and if we're not paying attention, we just may continue and just carry that weight unnecessarily through our experiences. I remember, yeah, like what, through things like presentations and doing sales calls, it was carrying a lot of level one energy, where I was perhaps avoiding the sales conversation, avoiding the preparing, or a lot of procrastinating. And then I discovered, oh man, that's because it's not just because, let's say, like, you think, well, it helps you categorize. This is my favorite thing about this, is that it can take an experience, a set of that combination of thoughts and emotions, and results that towards an experience, and you can categorize it and, like, oh my God, I'm experiencing level one at this moment, because it's a conversation that I'm avoiding, and so I'm doing these things. My brain is tricking me into doing something else or talking about something else because I don't want to have that conversation. Um, or with And then being able to shift out of that and say, okay, well, how can I break this down? How can I step into a more um, level three or level four, and shift my focus into what's possible, what's good out of this. So it really, it helps give the subjective and things that may seem intangible a place in our minds, and from then on be able to act with more intention and more, I guess, at will. Really have more a mastery of yourself. So I
Well,
do the debriefs, Jira's we did, and the debriefing, it's the assessment energy leadership index. That's what energy leadership master practitioner, that long title. Um, uh, and so this index, you start to discover that about yourself, and subsequently there's an opportunity to do further coaching, and work on particular areas that stand out, that where you may want to make a change.